The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass that orbited the golden world of Prime. Inside its grand hall, Ambassador stood alone. Above her, 5 thrones rose like mountains, and upon them sat the rulers of the empire. Their blue skin seemed to glow in the dim light, and their 4 eyes watched her with cold amusement. Wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her hands remained steady at her sides, though she knew what was coming. The message had been clear before she even arrived. This was not a negotiation. This was a demand. Emperor leaned forward on his throne. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. Human, you have heard our terms. Your species will surrender all military vessels to our forces. You will abandon the 3 outer colonies. You will pay tribute to the Empire as all lesser species must. You have 7 of your solar cycles to comply. Looked up at him without flinching. Your Majesty, Earth and her colonies are sovereign territories. We have broken no galactic laws. We have threatened no one. Why do you make these demands? High Commander, who sat on the throne to the Emperor's right, laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Why? Because we can, human. Your people are weak, your ships are slow, your weapons are primitive. We have watched you for 3 years. We know everything about you. You have 17 colony worlds and perhaps 500 ships. We have 12 star systems and 10,000 warships. You will obey or you will be destroyed. The other council members nodded in agreement. One of them, a female with silver markings on her face, spoke next. We are being generous, human. We could simply take what we want. We could burn your colonies from orbit. But Emperor is merciful. He offers you a chance to live under our protection. His jaw tightened, but her voice remained calm. Protection from whom? We have no enemies in this region of space. Protection from us, said, and laughed again. Accept our terms, human, or learn what happens to those who refuse the Empire. The chamber fell silent. Could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had faced hostile aliens before, but never had she felt such naked contempt, such absolute certainty that humanity was nothing more than an insect to be crushed. She took a slow breath. I will bring your demands to my government, but I must warn you. Warn us? Empress' voice rose in anger. You dare to warn us? You, who come from a species that has barely left its own star system. You, whose greatest ships would be nothing but target practice for our training cadets. Met his gaze. I warn you that you may not understand what you are asking for. Earth values peace. We have always sought diplomatic solutions, but we are not defenseless and we are not slaves. High Commander stood up from his throne. He was 3 meters tall, towering over the human ambassador even from that distance. Your warning is noted and dismissed. 7 solar cycles, human. Not 8, not 9. 7. If we do not see your ship surrendering at the designated coordinates, we will come to Earth itself. We will show you what happens to species that defy the Empire. The Emperor waved his hand dismissively. This audience is over. Return to your primitive world. Tell them that the age of human independence has ended. Tell them that the Empire is now their master. Go. Bowed, not out of respect, but because protocol demanded it. She turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. Behind her, she could hear the council members already talking among themselves, dividing up human territories, discussing which noble houses would control which colonies. As the doors closed behind her, allowed herself one small smile. They had no idea what they had just done. The shuttle ride back to her ship was long and quiet. Sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the stars. Her mind raced through everything she had seen and heard. The Empire was powerful, that much was true. Their technology was advanced. Their fleets were massive, but they were also arrogant. They believed their own propaganda. They thought humanity was weak because they had only seen exploration vessels and colony transports. They had never seen Earth's true military. Nobody had. Her ship was waiting at the edge of space, a small diplomatic cruiser called the Horizon. As soon as she was aboard, she went straight to the secure communications room and activated the quantum link to Earth. The connection was instant, the encryption unbreakable. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral, Commander of the First Fleet. His expression was grave. "Ambassador, we received your preliminary report. They refused negotiations." "They did more than refuse," said. "They threatened orbital bombardment. They gave us 7 days to surrender everything. Admiral, they think we're helpless. They have no idea what's waiting in the belt." Nodded slowly. "Then they've made their choice. I'll convene the defense coalition immediately. The president will need to authorize Protocol Tsunami." "They're going to attack Earth," said. "Made that clear. If we don't surrender, they're coming straight for our. Then we'll be ready for them." The Admiral's eyes were hard as steel. "You did well, Ambassador. Get back to Earth safely. Things are going to change very quickly now." The transmission ended. Sat in the darkness of the communications room for a long moment. She thought about her family back on Earth. She thought about the millions of humans living on colony worlds, unaware that their entire way of life was about to change. She thought about the Empire and their absolute certainty that humanity would bow to their demands. 7 days. That's what they had given humanity. 7 days to surrender or die. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Ever since the first contact with hostile aliens in the Alpha system, Earth's governments had agreed on one policy: speak softly, explore peacefully, but keep the biggest weapon you can build hidden away, just in case. The thought 500 ships was humanity's entire military. They were wrong. That was just what humanity allowed them to see. The real fleet had been built in secret, in hidden facilities scattered across the outer solar system, shipyards in the asteroid belt, manufacturing plants on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, research stations deep in the belt where no one ever ventured. The real fleet numbered not 500 ships, but 500 warships designed specifically for one purpose: to be so overwhelming that no one would dare threaten Earth twice. As the horizon jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading back toward human space, looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, the Empire was celebrating their upcoming victory. They were making plans. They were preparing victory speeches. They had 7 days to enjoy that feeling. After that, everything would change. Deep in the belt, far beyond Neptune's orbit, silent ships began to wake up. Their engines, cold and dark for years, started to warm. Their weapons systems, never before fired in anger, ran diagnostic tests. Crews who had trained for years in secret began final preparations. The message went out across encrypted channels to every hidden base, every secret facility, every covert military installation in human space. Protocol Tsunami was active. The Armada was mobilizing. Humanity's true strength was about to be revealed. And the galaxy would never be the same. The war room beneath Geneva was 500 meters underground, carved from solid rock during the early days of space exploration. Admiral stood at the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human colony, every ship, every military installation in known space. Around him sat the members of Earth's Defense Coalition, generals, admirals, presidents, and prime ministers from every major nation. The room was silent as the final votes came in. Watched the numbers climb on the main screen. When the last vote registered, the result was unanimous. Protocol Tsunami was now officially authorized. President spoke first, her voice heavy with the weight of what they had just approved. "Admiral, you understand what this means. Once we reveal our true strength, there's no going back. The galaxy will know what we've been hiding." Nodded. "I understand, Madam President, but the alternative is surrender or destruction. They have made their intentions clear. If we show weakness now, others will follow. We have to make a statement that will last for generations." "How long until the fleet is ready?" asked the Chinese premier. 12 hours, replied. The ships have been on standby for 3 days. Crews are aboard. Weapons are charged. We're just waiting for final authorization codes. He paused, which I now have. The room buzzed with quiet conversation. Some faces showed relief. Others showed fear. All of them understood that human history was about to change forever. While Earth's leaders debated final details, Captain sat in the cramped cockpit of her stealth ship, the Shadow. She floated in the darkness between stars, just outside the home system, invisible to their sensors. She had been there for 2 days, watching and recording everything. Through her cockpit window she could see Prime, that golden world where billions have lived their lives, unaware that their empire had just made a terrible mistake. Above the planet, hundreds of warships moved in formation, practicing for their invasion of Earth. They looked powerful. They looked unstoppable. Smiled grimly. They had no idea what was coming. Her sensor officer, a young man named, spoke quietly from the station behind her. Captain, I'm picking up a lot of chatter on their military channels. They're celebrating. Some admiral just announced that the humans will definitely surrender. He's already assigned colony governors. Let them celebrate, said. Record everything. Fleet positions, defensive satellites, command ships. I want a complete picture before we jump back. Yes, Captain. Also, the trackers that Ambassador planted are working perfectly. We have real-time tracking on their flagship and 12 other capital ships. Leaned back in her chair. Those had been idea planted during her visit to the council chamber. Microscopic machines that attached themselves to anything they touched, then transmitted location data through quantum channels. They would never detect them. By the time they figured out what happened, it would be far too late. How many ships do they have in total? Asked. Checked his displays. I count 8,347 warships in this system alone. Another 1,500 spread across their other territories. They really do have 10,000 ships, just like they claimed. And they think that's enough, muttered. She activated her communication system, sending an encrypted burst transmission toward Earth. It would arrive in seconds, carrying all their intelligence data. All right, we've seen enough. Prepare for jump. We're going home. The Shadow vanished from space without a sound, leaving no trace it had ever been there. Far out in the belt, beyond where the scouts had ever bothered to look, Doctor walked through the massive hangar bay of Research Station Omega. Above him, suspended in zero gravity by magnetic fields, hung the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. It looked like a simple torpedo, about 10 meters long and gray as stone. But inside that shell was technology that had taken 20 years to develop, a quantum disruption warhead. When it detonated, it would phase through normal matter and explode inside the target. No shield in the galaxy could stop it because it never touched the shields. It simply passed through them as if they didn't exist. How many do we have ready? Asked his assistant, a young engineer named. 5,000 warheads, replied, checking her. Each one tested and certified. We've loaded them onto the fleet already. Every ship carries at least 20. Nodded, feeling a mix of pride and dread. He had created these weapons hoping they would never be used. Now, in a few hours, they would be fired in anger for the first time. What about the graviton cannons? All 10 dreadnoughts are equipped and ready. We tested the targeting systems again this morning. They're accurate to within 3 meters at 50,000 kilometers. Good, that's good. Looked up at the weapon hanging above him. I hope the surrender quickly. I don't want to see what these things do to populated areas. Was quiet for a moment. Sir, do you think we're doing the right thing? Keeping all this secret, I mean. Maybe if we had shown our strength earlier. Then someone would have attacked us earlier, interrupted gently. You can't show a weapon without making enemies. Better to appear weak until you have no choice but to be strong. That was always the plan. In another part of the belt, Admiral arrived at Fleet Command Station, a massive structure built into an asteroid. As his shuttle approached, he could see them. Hundreds of warships, all painted in the dark gray of Earth's military, all hanging silently in space like sleeping giants. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Transferred to the flagship, a ship called the Indomitable. It was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, protected by shields that could withstand a nuclear blast. He had commanded this ship for 5 years, but only in training exercises. Today would be the first time he took it into actual combat. The bridge crew stood at attention as he entered. These men and women had trained their entire careers for this moment. Some were nervous, some were excited, all of them were ready. "Status report," ordered, settling into the command chair. His second-in-command commander stepped forward. "All ships report ready for combat operations. We have 500 warships in formation. Another 200 are standing by in reserve. Crews are at battle stations. Weapons are hot. We can jump to prime on your order, Admiral." Pulled up the tactical display. On the screen, he could see every ship in the fleet, color-coded by type. 100 frigates for close combat, 200 destroyers for fleet defense, 150 cruisers for heavy assault, 40 carriers full of fighters and bombers, and 10 dreadnoughts, the largest ships humanity had ever built, each one carrying a graviton cannon that could tear apart a small moon. It was a force designed to do one thing: overwhelm any opponent so completely that they would never dare threaten humanity again. "Sir," said quietly, "the crews are asking about the mission. What do we tell them?" Considered this, his people deserve to know the truth. Broadcast to all ships, all hands. A moment later, the communication officer nodded. "You're on, sir." Stood, "This is Admiral to all fleet personnel. You've trained for years for this moment. You've wondered when our strength would be revealed. That time is now. The Empire has threatened Earth. They've demanded we surrender. They've promised to attack if we refuse. They believe we are weak. They believe we are helpless. They are about to learn how wrong they are." He paused, letting his words sink in. "In 1 hour we will jump to prime. We will arrive exactly at the moment of their deadline. We will show them what happens when you threaten innocent people. We will show them what humanity is truly capable of. But remember this, we are not conquerors. We are not butchers. We fight only to protect. We strike only to defend. And when this is over, we will offer mercy to those who deserve it." Another pause. "This is a historic moment. Your children will ask you about this day. Make sure you can tell them you did your duty with honor. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We leave in 1 hour. Out." The bridge erupted in quiet activity as officers began final preparations. Sat back down, suddenly feeling the weight of 500 ships and 50,000 lives under his command. He thought about his family back on Earth, his wife, his 2 children. They were the reason he was doing this, to keep them safe, to make sure they never had to live under the rule of an empire that saw humans as nothing but slaves. On his personal display, a message appeared from Captain: "Intelligence package delivered. Every ship is tagged. You'll know exactly where they are. Good hunting, Admiral." Smiled. That was the last piece of the puzzle. Now they had every advantage: surprise, superior weapons, better intelligence, and the determination of a species fighting for its survival. The hour passed quickly. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. In the hangar bays, fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. In the engineering sections, crews made final checks on the massive engines that would push these ships across light years in seconds. In the weapons bays, technicians armed torpedoes and charged energy banks. "All ships report ready," announced. "Jump coordinates are locked. We'll arrive in formation, 500,000 kilometers from prime, right in the middle of their fleet." Took a deep breath. "Signal all ships, execute protocol tsunami, jump in 3, 2, 1, jump." Space twisted. The stars stretched into lines, and 500 human warships vanished from the belt, reappearing in a flash of light above the capital world of the Empire. The galaxy would never forget what happened next. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, watching with satisfaction. Below him, the golden world of Prime turned slowly in space. Above him, in perfect formation, 8,000 warships waited in parade formation. They had gathered to witness what would be the greatest moment in the Empire's history, the surrender of the human species. "What time is it?" asked his navigation officer. 17 minutes until the deadline, Commander. The humans have not responded to any of our hails. No ships have arrived at the surrender coordinates. Smiled. They're going to make us come get them. Fools. They think if they ignore us, we'll go away. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the bombardment fleet. As soon as the deadline passes, we jump to Earth. We'll burn 3 of their cities from orbit. That should teach them about defiance. The bridge crew worked quietly, entering coordinates and running final checks. Nobody spoke much. This was routine. The Empire had conquered 17 species in the last century. Humanity would be number 18, just another primitive culture that thought it could stand against the might of. "Sir," the sensor officer said suddenly, "I'm detecting something. Massive hyperspace signatures, multiple contacts." Frowned. "How many?" "Counting. 100, 200. Sir, I'm reading 500 separate hyperspace exits. They're appearing right in the middle of our formation." "What? Put it on screen." The changed. Where there had been empty space, now there were ships, human ships, but these were nothing like the small exploration vessels they had seen before. These were warships, massive and angular, their hulls painted dark gray, their weapons ports glowing with power. They appeared in perfect formation, 500 strong, right in the heart of the fleet. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the screen in disbelief. "How is this possible?" whispered. "Intelligence said they only had 500 ships total. These are all military vessels. All of them are armed. How did we not know about this?" On the planet below, Emperor sat in his palace, watching the same scene on his own screens. His 4 eyes widened in shock. "Get me immediately." Back on the Eternal Glory, was already trying to process what he was seeing. The human ships were larger than he expected. Their energy signatures were incredibly powerful, and they were positioned perfectly to hit the fleet from every angle. "Incoming transmission from the human flagship," the communications officer reported. "Audio and visual." "Put it through." The face that appeared on screen belonged to Admiral. He wore a simple military uniform with few decorations. His expression was calm but hard. "High Commander, I am Admiral of the Earth Defense Fleet. You gave us 7 days to surrender. That deadline has now passed. We have not surrendered. Instead, we have come to deliver a message." Found his voice. "You dare to bring ships into our home system. You are surrounded by 8,000 warships. You will be destroyed." His expression didn't change. "You threatened to attack Earth. You threatened to burn our cities. You called us weak and primitive. You were wrong on all counts. This is your only warning. Stand down your weapons and withdraw your threats against humanity. If you do not, you will face the consequences." Felt rage building in his chest. This human dared to threaten the Empire. In their own home system. "You're insane. You have 500 ships. We have 8,000. You're outnumbered 16 to 1. "Numbers don't matter," said quietly, "when you have better technology." The screen went dark. Slammed his fist on the command console. "All ships, open fire, destroy them all." 8,000 warships activated their weapons. Energy beams lanced through space, targeting the human vessels. Missiles launched by the thousands. It was overwhelming firepower, enough to vaporize a small moon. But something impossible happened. The human ship's shields flickered to life, glowing with a soft blue light. The energy beams hit those shields and simply stopped. They didn't penetrate. They didn't even make the shields flicker. The beams just splashed across the surface like water hitting a rock and dissipated into nothing. The missiles reached the human formation and ran into a wall of point defense fire. Every human ship had dozens of small turrets that tracked incoming projectiles with perfect accuracy. The missiles exploded harmlessly, thousands of them, creating a fireworks display that lit up space but did no damage at all. On the Eternal Glory stared in disbelief. How are their shields so strong? Unknown, sir. Our weapons aren't penetrating at all. Then the human ships returned fire. It started with the frigates, small ships compared to the battleships, but what came from their weapons was unlike anything they had ever seen. Beams of purple light, plasma lances that burned hotter than a star's core, sliced through shields like they were made of paper. Where the beams touched hulls, metal vaporized instantly. Ships 3 times the size of the human frigates were cut in half, their crews never knowing what killed them. Then came the missiles, but these were not normal missiles. They phased in and out of normal space, quantum disruption warheads that passed through shields as if the shields didn't exist. They inside enemy ships and detonated. One moment, a cruiser was intact. The next moment, it exploded from within, torn apart by an explosion that started in its own reactor core. Watched in horror as his fleet began to die. Ships that had served the Empire for decades vanished in balls of fire. Crews of thousands perished in seconds. The humans moved through space like dancers, their formation never breaking, every ship supporting its neighbors, presenting a unified defensive wall that seemed impenetrable. Return fire. All ships concentrate fire on one target, overwhelm their shields. 300 ships focused all their weapons on a single human destroyer. The combined firepower should have been enough to crack a planet. Instead, something else impossible happened. The destroyer's shields shared power with nearby ships. The entire human formation linked their defensive systems, distributing the damage across dozens of vessels. The destroyer emerged from the assault completely undamaged. "This is impossible," muttered. "This is impossible." Commander, aboard the human ship Retribution, watched the battle with grim satisfaction. His dreadnought hadn't even fired yet. The smaller ships were handling the fleet with ease. It was almost sad. The Empire had ruled this region of space for centuries, believing themselves invincible. Now they were learning what happened when you threatened a species that had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "they are launching fighters. Estimate 3,000 small craft incoming." "Deploy countermeasures," ordered calmly. The human carriers, 40 ships scattered throughout the formation, opened their launch bays. But what emerged weren't fighters piloted by humans. They were drones, AI-controlled combat craft that could perform maneuvers no living pilot could survive. They accelerated at speeds that would crush a human body, turned at angles that would tear a person apart, and moved with perfect coordination because they were all controlled by the same quantum computer. The fighters ran straight into a swarm of mechanical death. The human drones outnumbered them 2 to 1 and were faster, more agile, and better armed. Within 10 minutes, the entire fighter wing was destroyed. Not a single human drone was lost. On Prime, Emperor watched his fleet burn. His hands gripped the armrests of his throne so hard that his blue skin turned white. How is this happening? How did we not know they had this kind of power? His intelligence minister, a thin with face, spoke quietly. "Your Majesty, we were deceived. They showed us only their civilian vessels. They hid their military strength in the outer reaches of their system, where our scouts never went. We underestimated them." "Underestimated?" His voice rose to a shout. "We have lost 3,000 ships in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. At this rate, the entire fleet will be gone in an hour." Back in space, Admiral watched the battle from the Indomitable's bridge. He took no pleasure in what he was seeing. Every ship that died contained hundreds of crew members. They were people, not monsters, but they had made their choice when they threatened Earth. Now they were paying the price. Admiral's voice came through the communication system. "Enemy fleet is attempting to withdraw. Should we pursue?" Negative, replied. Let the non-military vessels go. Any ship that powers down weapons and broadcasts a surrender signal is to be left alone. We're here to protect humanity, not to commit genocide. Understood, sir. But High Commander was not ready to surrender. On the Eternal Glory, he made a desperate decision. Redirect all ships. We're going to break through their formation and launch our planet-killer missiles at Earth. If we're going to lose, we'll take there with us. The fleet, or what was left of it, turned as one and accelerated toward the human lines. Had 5,000 ships remaining. He would sacrifice them all if it meant destroying Earth. Saw the change in formation immediately. They're making a run for Earth. Engineering, give me maximum shield power. All ships, defensive formation delta. Don't let a single enemy vessel break through. The human fleet reformed, creating a wall between thee and the hyperspace exit point that would take them to Earth. The charged forward, desperate and determined. That's when Commander finally fired his dreadnought's main weapon. The graviton cannon charged for 3 seconds, gathering power. Then it fired. A beam of invisible force lanced across space, warping gravity itself in a narrow corridor. When it hit a defensive platform, the structure simply collapsed. Not exploded. Collapsed. It was crushed by its own mass as the graviton beam increased local gravity to impossible levels. The platform and the 10 ships behind it were compressed into a sphere of twisted metal no larger than a small house. The fleet stopped advancing. They finally understood. They were not fighting an enemy they could defeat. They were fighting a force of nature. All ships cease fire. His voice came across all channels. I repeat, cease fire. We surrender. The battle stopped. Space fell silent except for the crackle of burning ships and the hiss of escaping atmosphere. In 20 minutes, the Empire's fleet had been reduced to rubble. 2,000 ships destroyed, 3,000 more damaged and powerless. And the human fleet, not a single ship lost. A few dozen had scratched paint and dented armor. That was all. Admiral's voice broadcast across all frequencies. This is Admiral to all forces. You have surrendered. You will now hear our terms. You will disarm your remaining military vessels. You will hand over all officers responsible for planning attacks on human colonies. You will pay reparations for the resources we spent defending ourselves. And you will recognize before the entire Galactic Council that humanity is a sovereign power that will never bow to threats. He paused. These terms are not negotiable. Accept them or we will resume combat operations. You have 1 hour to decide. On Prime, Emperor stared at the screen. His empire, built over centuries, had been humbled in less than an hour. He looked at his ministers, his generals, his advisors. All of them wore the same expression: shock, fear, and the terrible understanding that the galaxy had changed forever. Send the message, said quietly. We accept their terms. The hour passed in tense silence. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral waited for the response. Around him, the human fleet maintained their defensive formation, weapons still charged, shields still active. They had won the battle, but trust was not something that could be rebuilt in minutes. Sir, the communications officer reported, receiving transmission from Prime. It's Emperor himself. Put him through. The Emperor appeared on screen. He looked older than he had a day ago. His blue skin seemed pale, his 4 eyes dull with defeat. Admiral, the Empire accepts your terms. We will disarm as requested. We will hand over those responsible for planning attacks on your people. We will pay reparations. We acknowledge humanity's sovereignty. Nodded slowly. A wise decision, Your Majesty. However, we have detected something troubling. Our sensors show missile launches from your western continent. 40 ballistic missiles, trajectory plotted for the human colony of Nu. Care to explain? His eyes widened in genuine shock. What? I gave no such order. He turned to someone off screen. Who authorized this launch? The answer came quickly. High Commander's voice echoed through the transmission. I did, Your Majesty. If we cannot win, then the humans should know the cost of humiliating the Empire. Those missiles will reach the colony in 18 minutes. Nothing can stop them now." "You fool," shouted. "You've doomed us all. Admiral, I swear I did not order this. Acted without." "It doesn't matter who gave the order," interrupted calmly. "What matters is stopping those missiles. Communications, contact Commander on the Retribution. Tell her to deploy long-range interceptors." On the colony world of Nu, Governor stood in the command center, watching the alert screens light up with red warnings. 40 missiles incoming. Each one carried enough explosive power to level a city. Her colony had 2 million people, most of them farmers and researchers. They had no military defenses. They were helpless. "Evacuate the cities," she ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Get everyone into the underground shelters. Move." Alarms blared across the colony. People ran through streets heading for shelter. Parents carried children. The elderly were helped by neighbors. Everyone knew they had maybe 15 minutes before impact. It wasn't enough time, not nearly enough. But high above, in orbit around Prime, something was already moving. Commander sat in the captain's chair of the Retribution, humanity's most powerful dreadnought. She had watched the battle with the fleet, waiting for her moment to use the ship's main weapon. Now she had a different mission: save 2 million innocent people 18 light-years away. "Tactical plot-firing solution on those missiles," she ordered. "I want intercept vectors for all 40. Her tactical officer, a young woman named Sara, worked quickly. "Solutions plotted, Commander. We have a clear shot through hyperspace. Interceptors are ready. Fire all tubes." The Retribution's launch bays opened. 40 interceptor missiles shot out, each one painted with the blue and white colors of Earth. But these were not ordinary missiles. They were equipped with micro-hyperspace drives, capable of jumping across light years to hit their targets. The ultimate defensive weapon. The missiles vanished from space. 18 light-years away, they reappeared in the skies above Nu, moving at incredible speed. Their targeting computers locked onto the missiles in microseconds. Impact was unavoidable. 40 explosions lit up the atmosphere of Nu, but they were high up in the upper atmosphere, far above the cities. The missiles never reached the ground. They never even got close. They were destroyed so far up that the colonists below only saw brief flashes of light, like distant fireworks. In the command center, Governor stared at her screens in disbelief. "They're gone, all of them. The missiles are gone." She sat down heavily in her chair, tears of relief running down her face. "They saved us. Earth saved us." Back at Prime, Admiral's expression hardened. "Emperor, your High Commander just attempted to murder 2 million civilians. That changes things. I'm revising our terms." "Name them," said quietly. "We will comply." "First, and anyone else involved in planning that strike will be handed over immediately for war crimes trials. Second, your military will be reduced to a defensive force only. All offensive warships will be destroyed or converted to civilian use. Third, reparations will triple to cover the threat to our colonies. And fourth, you will allow independent observers from the Galactic Council to monitor your compliance. These terms are effective immediately." Closed his eyes. "It will be done. You are under arrest. Guards take him into custody." The transmission ended. On the Eternal Glory, High Commander fought against the guards who came for him, but it was useless. Within minutes, he was in chains, being transferred to a human vessel for transport to Earth. The architect of the aggression would face human justice. Aboard the Indomitable, Specialist sat at his cyber warfare station, fingers dancing across holographic keyboards. While everyone else had been focused on the shooting war, he had been fighting a different battle, a digital one. "Admiral," reported, "I've successfully penetrated all primary military networks. Their communications are compromised. Their targeting systems are under our control. Even their ship's navigation computers are infected with our code. If they try anything, We can shut down their entire military with a keystroke. Walked over to station. How long have you been in their systems? Since before we jumped here, sir. Captain Stealth missions planted infiltration nodes throughout their networks. I've been building for 3 days. They never knew we were there. Pulled up a display showing the command network, now completely mapped and compromised. Every order they give goes through us first. Every ship movement is tracked. They can't even launch a shuttle without us knowing about it. Good work, Specialist. Keep monitoring. If anyone tries to launch more attacks, shut them down before they can act. Yes, sir. The Galactic Council had been watching the battle through their long-range sensors, as had dozens of other alien civilizations. News was spreading across the galaxy at the speed of light. Humanity, the species everyone thought was weak and primitive, had just destroyed the Empire's fleet in less than an hour. Ambassador, a representative from the Commonwealth, sat in the council chambers and stared at the data in disbelief. This is impossible. The humans had no significant military 3 years ago. How did they build this fleet without anyone noticing? Another council member, an alien named, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. They deceived us all. They showed us only what they wanted us to see. Their exploration ships, their colony transports, their civilian vessels. All the while they were building warships in secret. It's brilliant in a terrifying way. It's more than brilliant, said. It's a warning. The humans are saying we will not be threatened, we will not be conquered, and they're saying it with enough firepower to prove it. What should we do? Asked. The humans have just demonstrated they are the most powerful military force in known space. Thought for a moment. We send ambassadors, we offer friendship, because the last thing we want is to be on the wrong side of humanity's weapons. Back at Prime, the cleanup had begun. Human medical ships arrived to help with wounded crew members. Human engineering teams assisted in stabilizing damaged vessels before their reactors could explode. Despite the brutal combat, humanity showed mercy to their defeated enemies. They could have left them to die in space. Instead, they saved lives. Captain supervised the rescue operations from the Retribution. She watched as her crew pulled survivors from wrecked ships, gave them medical treatment, and transported them safely to hospital ships. It felt strange, saving people who had been trying to kill them minutes ago. But it was the right thing to do. Commander, her first officer asked, why are we helping them? They tried to destroy us. Looked at him. Because we're not like them. We don't kill unnecessarily. We don't abandon people to die when we can save them. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us human. Admiral received another transmission, this time from Earth. President's face appeared on his screen. Admiral, I've been watching the battle reports. You and your fleet have performed magnificently. The whole world is proud of you. Thank you, Madam President, but I wish it hadn't been necessary. I know, but it was necessary. They forced our hand. Now the galaxy knows humanity is not prey. We are protectors. Protectors of our own people and, when necessary, protectors of the weak. About that, Madam President, I'm receiving communications from 3 other alien governments. They're asking to open diplomatic relations. They all mention that they were impressed by our military capability, but also by our restraint. President smiled. Then we've achieved our goal. Power means nothing if people only fear you, but power combined with justice, that's something people respect. Accept those diplomatic overtures, Admiral. It's time to start building a new future. The next few days were busy. Officers were processed and transported to Earth for trials. War criminals were separated from those who were just following orders. The Empire's remaining fleet was inspected, disarmed, and either destroyed or converted to peaceful purposes. Reparations were calculated and agreed upon. Independent observers from neutral civilizations arrived to ensure compliance. Ambassador returned to Prime, but this time not as a supplicant begging for mercy. This time she arrived as the representative of a major power, negotiating from a position of strength. Emperor met with her personally, in private. "I owe you an apology," said quietly. "I underestimated your people. I thought you were weak. I was catastrophically wrong." Sat across from him. "You saw what you expected to see. We encouraged that. It's an old strategy on Earth. Appear weak when you are strong, appear strong when you are weak. You made the mistake of believing the appearance." "My empire is broken," continued. "We've ruled this region for 3 centuries. Now in one day our power is gone, our fleet is destroyed, our reputation is shattered. What happens to us now?" "That depends on you," replied. "If you learn from this, if you reform your government, if you treat other species with respect instead of contempt, then humanity will support your rebuilding. We don't want to destroy the people. We just want you to stop threatening others." Looked at her with something like hope in his eyes. "You would help us, after what we tried to do to you." "We would, because that's who we are. We don't hold grudges. We don't seek revenge. We seek justice and then we seek peace." Stood up. "Rebuild your empire, your majesty, but build it better this time. Build it on cooperation instead of conquest. Do that and humanity will be your ally, not your enemy." As she left the palace, looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the human fleet was preparing to return home. They had come here as warriors. They were leaving as peacekeepers. The galaxy would remember this day for 1,000 years. The day humanity proved that strength without wisdom is tyranny, but strength with mercy is civilization. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. Humanity, once considered insignificant, now sat at the table of galactic powers, and the table itself was about to get much larger. Ambassador stood in the newly built Galactic Council chamber on the neutral space station called Unity. The old council chambers on Prime had been symbolic of the old order, where 5 empires ruled and everyone else obeyed. This new chamber was different. It was round, with no throne higher than any other, no species given precedence. 30 different civilizations had seats here, and more were applying for membership every week. Wore the blue and white uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. She was young for an ambassador, only 35 years old, but she had a sharp mind and a gift for seeing common ground between different species. Today was her first day as humanity's permanent representative to the council, and she was nervous. "Ambassador," a voice said behind her. She turned to see Ambassador of the Commonwealth, a species that looked somewhat like tall birds with golden feathers. "Welcome to the council. I hope we can work together." "Thank you, Ambassador. I'm looking forward to it." "I must admit," said, "when your species first revealed its military strength, many of us were frightened. We thought you might become conquerors like but your actions since then have proven otherwise. You've shared technology. You've helped rebuild. You've shown restraint when you could have shown dominance. It's impressive." Smiled. "We learned something important in our history, Ambassador. Power for its own sake is meaningless. Power used to help others. That has real value. That's what we're trying to do here." The council session began an hour later. Representatives from 30 civilizations gathered, discussing trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and scientific cooperation. The empire still had a seat at the table, represented by the new prime minister, who had replaced emperor after the old ruler abdicated in shame. But the big news came at the end of the session. "We have 3 requests for alliance with humanity," announced the council speaker, a wise old alien named from a species called the Federation. The Republic and the Collective all wish to form mutual defense pacts with Earth and its colonies. Stood, humanity is honored by these requests. We accept all 3, with the condition that these alliances are defensive in nature only. We will not support aggressive wars. We will not help any species conquer another, but we will stand with our allies if they are threatened." The 3 ambassadors who had requested alliance stood and bowed. One of them, a reptilian being from the Federation, spoke. We accept your terms, Ambassador. We witnessed what happened to the fleet. We know your military strength, but we also know that you used that strength only after being threatened. We trust you not to abuse your power. Then let us sign the treaties, replied, and begin a new era of cooperation. On Earth, Admiral stood in front of a classroom full of young officers. He had retired from active command 3 months ago, taking a position at the Earth Military Academy. His students were the next generation of fleet commanders, learning from the man who had led humanity's greatest victory. What you need to understand, said, packing in front of the holographic display, is that the Battle of Prime was won before we ever arrived. We won because we prepared. We won because we kept our true strength hidden until we needed it. And most importantly, we won because we fought only to defend, not to conquer. A young cadet raised her hand. Sir, some people say we should have destroyed the entire fleet, that we were too merciful. What do you think? Stopped packing. I think mercy is strength, not weakness. Yes, we could have killed every in space that day, but what would that have made us? Murderers, butchers. We fight to protect, not to destroy. The moment we forget that, we become the very thing we fought against. He pulled up a tactical display of the battle. Look at this. We had overwhelming advantages. Better weapons, better shields, better tactics. We could have won by annihilation. Instead, we won by demonstration. We showed that they couldn't win, then we offered them terms. Now, 6 months later, they are rebuilding, trading with us, sharing technology. If we had destroyed them completely, we would have made enemies of every other species in the galaxy. The students nodded thoughtfully, smiled. These young officers would carry humanity's values into the future. They would remember that strength without wisdom was tyranny. In the outer colonies, life was changing rapidly. On Nu, the colony that had almost been destroyed by missiles, Governor walked through the new spaceport. Ships from a dozen different species came and went, bringing trade goods, technology, and tourists. The colony that had been isolated and vulnerable was now a thriving hub of interstellar commerce. Governor, one of her aides said, the latest population numbers are in. We've grown from 2 million to 3 million in just 6 months. People from Earth are moving here because they see opportunities. And we're getting immigration requests from other species too. Looked out at the bustling spaceport. Approve them, all of them. Nu was saved by humanity's fleet, but now it belongs to everyone who wants to build a peaceful life here. That's what we're about now. Not just surviving, but thriving. At Research Station Omega in the Belt, Doctor was working on something new. The quantum disruption warheads that had won the battle were being carefully dismantled. Not destroyed, but stored away. Humanity still needed weapons, but they didn't need to build more of them. Not yet. Instead, and his team were developing new technology. Medical devices that could heal injuries at the cellular level. Power generators that could provide clean energy to whole planets. Shield technology that could protect colonies from radiation and meteor strikes. The same brilliant minds that had created weapons of war were now creating tools of peace. Doctor, his assistant said, we've received a request from the Commonwealth. They want to know if we would share our shield technology with them. Thought about it? Yes, but only the defensive applications. We share knowledge that protects, not knowledge that destroys. That's the rule now. Understood, sir. I'll prepare the technical documentation. Captain, who had spent years in stealth operations gathering intelligence on potential enemies, had a new job now. She commanded a humanitarian aid fleet, using her skills to find civilizations in need and bring them help. Her stealth ships still operated in secret, but now they searched for people suffering from disasters, not military threats. Her current mission was on a distant world called Praxis 7, where a plague had killed millions. The local civilization, a gentle species called the, had no cure and no defense. Ships had arrived 3 days ago with medical supplies, doctors, and Earth's advanced biotechnology. Captain, her medical officer reported, We've synthesized a vaccine. It's ready for mass production. We can save this species. Looked out at the planet below, where billions of waited for help they didn't know was coming. Deploy the vaccine, work with their medical authorities, and make sure they know it's a gift, not a transaction. We don't want payment, we just want to help. The medical officer smiled. You know, Captain, 6 months ago we were preparing for war. Now we're saving civilizations. It's a good change. It is, agreed. It really is. Back on Prime, the transformation was remarkable. The golden world that had been the heart of an aggressive empire was now becoming something different. Emperor had abdicated as he had promised. In his place, the people had elected a democratic government. Prime Minister was a reformer, someone who believed in cooperation over conquest. Stood in what used to be the throne room but was now a simple office. On his desk were treaty documents, trade agreements, and requests for technological exchange. The empire was gone, replaced by the republic. It was smaller, humbler, but also happier. A knock on his door announced a visitor. It was Ambassador, returning for another diplomatic meeting. Ambassador greeted her warmly. Thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss the education exchange program you proposed. Of course, Prime Minister. Earth is willing to accept 10,000 students this year. They'll study at our universities, learn our culture, and hopefully take back ideas about democracy and cooperation. And we'll welcome human students here as well, added. We have much to learn from each other. My people spent centuries believing we were superior to everyone else. That arrogance nearly destroyed us. Now we're learning humility, and it's a hard lesson but a necessary one. Nodded. The hardest lessons usually are. But you're doing well, Prime Minister. Your people are adapting. In a generation, the Republic will be a valued member of the galactic community. I hope so, said quietly. I hope my children grow up in a galaxy where species cooperate instead of conquer, where strength is used to protect, not to oppress. That's the future humanity has shown us is possible. 2 years later, Admiral Sara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vigilant. She was young to be an admiral, only 40 years old, but she had proven herself as. Now she commanded the Second Fleet, which patrolled the borders of human space and protected allied civilizations. Admiral, her sensor officer reported, we're detecting a distress call. A Republic colony is under attack by pirates. Plot a jump course, Sara ordered immediately. We respond to all calls for help. That's our purpose now. The Vigilant and its fleet jumped to the system. The pirates, seeing human warships appear, immediately fled. They had heard the stories. They knew what humanity's fleet could do. The colonists were saved without a shot being fired. Thank you, the governor transmitted. Your reputation preceded you. The pirates knew they couldn't win against Earth's fleet. Sora smiled. That's the idea, Governor. Peace through strength. If everyone knows we'll respond to protect our allies, maybe fewer people will try to hurt them in the first place. In the Galactic Council chambers, a historic vote was taking place. The question, should humanity lead the formation of a new galactic defense force, a military organization that would protect all member species from external threats? Ambassador stood and addressed the council. Earth proposes this defense force not as a way to dominate, but as a way to protect. We've proven we can fight when necessary. We've also proven we can show restraint. We believe that by pooling our military resources under a unified command with clear defensive rules, we can create lasting peace in this region of space. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed. The Galactic Defense Force was established, with Admiral Sara as its first commander. Human technology would be shared with allied species, but only defensive systems. Weapons would remain under strict control. Elder, who had been Earth's representative to the United Nations, and now served as the planet's senior statesman, addressed the Earth Assembly on the 10th anniversary of the Battle of Prime. 10 years ago, he said, his voice carrying across the assembled leaders. We revealed our strength to a galaxy that thought we were weak. But the true test was not in showing our power. The true test was in what we did with that power after the battle ended. He paused, looking out at the faces watching him. We could have become conquerors. We could have used our weapons to build an empire. Instead, we used them to build partnerships. We shared our technology. We protected the weak. We showed mercy to our enemies. And in doing so, we proved that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons, but our values. The assembly applauded, smiled. There's an old saying from Earth: the best victory is one where the enemy becomes a friend. Look at the galaxy today. They are our trading partners. Species that once feared us now call us allies. We didn't win with weapons alone. We won with wisdom, restraint, and compassion. On Prime, a ceremony was taking place. A memorial was being dedicated, built jointly by humans, and it was a simple structure, a circle of stone with the names of everyone who had died in the battle from both sides. Admiral, now elderly and retired, stood beside the son of Emperor. The young, who had grown up in a republic rather than an empire, looked at the memorial with sadness. "So many died," he said quietly, "all because of my father's arrogance." "They died," replied gently, "but their deaths taught us all something important. That war should always be the last resort. That pride and arrogance lead only to suffering. Your generation will remember this. You'll build something better." Together they planted 2 trees, one from earth, an oak that could live for centuries, one from a silver-leaf tree that glowed in the starlight. The trees would grow together, their roots intertwining, their branches reaching toward the same stars. As the ceremony ended, looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the human fleet still patrolled, still protected, still stood ready. But they also explored, traded, and cooperated. Humanity had become what it always had the potential to be: warriors when necessary, but peacekeepers by choice. The galaxy had changed forever. No longer was it a place where the strong dominated the weak, where empires crushed those who couldn't defend themselves. Now it was a place where strength protected the vulnerable, where power served justice, where former enemies could become friends. And it all began with humanity's choice, 10 years ago, to be strong but merciful, powerful but wise, victorious but compassionate. The age of cooperation had begun, and it would last for 1,000 years.